Everybody say love never fails. I still want to preach one last sermon on it's time for a love revolution. How many knows love changes everything? And the Bible says love never fails. So anytime I fail personally, it's a love problem. Everybody say it's a love problem. Now, just a note about next week, don't forget, we're going to be doing all that on the trips, and I'm not going to keep going into that, but it's going to be so great next Sunday morning and Sunday night. And I know we've used Peter a lot this year, but guess who I heard about all the trip? Peter must be some type of character. And I was up the first morning there, I was up at 3 a.m., and the Lord downloaded some more stuff about Peter in my spirit of all times for him to down. And I'm looking, it's night in that motel in Israel, first night there, and Andrew over there sleeping and snoring, and he wakes me up, and I'm trying to not to wake him up. But I want to preach to you just some things he's put into my spirit about that, okay? The subtitle this morning is simply this: Peter's root problem. Or I could just say Peter's problem. It's so easy to see Peter's failures only to ignore our own. Peter's failures in the Bible was partially driven by fear and pride and hastiness with his words, which highlight his humanity before he became a pillar of the early church. I don't have time to preach on them because of the time of the day, but let's hit them real quickly. I mean, the biggest one, he denied Jesus 3 times. How many times have we denied him? This week. He rebuked Jesus. Remember that? We talked about it. Remember his impulsiveness in the garden? He got so angry, he cut off Malchus's right ear. And Jesus had to put it back on. Pretty incredible story. What about his lack of faith when he was walking on the water? But how many times have we had a lack of faith when he's told us to step out? What about his failure to watch and pray in the garden? But how many times have we failed to watch and pray? What about his opposition to being served? Remember, Jesus said, I'm going to wash your feet, and big mouth Peter, no, you're not going to wash my feet. You know, I wrote this down this morning. Humility for a lot of us is not washing someone else's feet, it's having our own feet washed. Hypocrisy among the Gentiles. Listen, I really thought that Peter had never failed after the day of Pentecost, but Paul had to rebuke him. Come on, help me someone. Because he began to shy away from the Jews because let me rephrase that a little bit. He had to withdraw from eating with us Gentiles due to the fear of the Jewish believers, which Paul said, that's not right. I wish I had time to stay there, but I don't. What about Peter and the others trying to keep children away from Jesus? But how many times have we offended some little ones? Come on. Even at the banquet yesterday, for those who served, we had chances to be offended. You don't get 100 women together at that age and somebody not have a cranky attitude. Come on, all of them wasn't angels. You know this, but I know this. To be a servant, you don't know if you're a servant or not until you're treated like a servant. I wish somebody would help me right there. Because some people say, I ain't never going to do that again because they was ugly. You've been ugly too. Ask your spouse. Come on, let's move on. What about Peter? He was full of selfish ambition. And in Mark 9:33, you know the story. They came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, Jesus asked him, what was y'all fussing about? What was y'all fussing about? And they had to tell him we was fussing about who's the greatest. Come on, you've had them conversations with people before too, hadn't you? What about on the mountain of transfiguration? Peter witnessed an incredible event when Jesus was seeing in all of his glory, and he was so worried about what he could do instead of just enjoying his presence. He said, let us build 3 temples. It wasn't time to build a temple. It was a time to be reverenced to the presence. How many times do we get caught in active duty of being a Christian that we forget his presence cannot be bought? And we need to reverence his holy presence. I think everything that Peter was guilty of, I have been guilty of too. And here's the good part today. Peter, one time, Jesus even says, Satan, get behind me. I'm glad he ain't never told me that yet. Can we all acknowledge this truth before I preach? Jesus saw something in Peter that I would not have seen. Jesus saw a rock. Jesus saw a faithful minister. Jesus saw a man who would be crucified upside down because he knows our end before our even beginning. While I'm seeing a miserable, inconsistent man who blew it almost daily, Jesus saw a rock. Can I tell somebody, Jesus sees more in you than I see? Help me, somebody. Jesus sees more in you than I see, and he sees more in me than you see. Why? Because he's not finished with any of us yet. Because we find Peter broken over his denial of Jesus. Look in John 21, verse 1. I didn't have you to stand for the opening verse. I'm trying to get through. Later, Jesus appeared to the disciples beside the Sea of Galilee. Show some pictures, if you will, Amber, for me. Next, the pictures. That's pictures that was taken while we was there. I think Pastor Andrew took these. This is where Peter said, boys, let's go back fishing. Even though they've seen Jesus in the flesh, resurrected from the dead, just like he said, Peter saying, I'm still not sure about my calling. I'm still not sure if I've blown it too many times for him to still use me. So he goes back to what he used to do right there on that sea. You see those stones? That's where Jesus would say, hey, throw out your net another time. It's right in that sea. The same sea, not the same place, but the same sea where Jesus first met Peter. Come on, talk to me. Sometimes we need to go back and remember the first time that we inquired and we met Jesus as a Savior of our lives. Can we return to our first love instead of going back to what we used to do? And Peter said, I'm going fishing, and because he had influence, others went fishing with him. And let's read the story. Do we have one more slide? I think we do. Yeah, there is, anytime something happened, they find out it is a place where it actually happened, they call that an A site. There's B sites where they think it happened, C sites where it could have happened. But this is an A site because they built a church called St. Peter's Church. How many of us had a church named after us? Not much of a failure, was he? But that rock they have inside that church is the rock that's in the garden where they honestly believe where Jesus confronted Peter in the story that I'm about to read. Watch this story. We find it in John 21, verse 1. Later, Jesus appeared to the disciples beside the Sea of Galilee. This is how it happened. Several disciples were there. Simon Peter, Thomas, Nathanael, and the sons of Zebedee. Simon Peter said, I'm going fishing. They said, we'll come too. They all said, so they went out to the boat. They caught nothing. Everybody say they caught nothing. Does that sound familiar to you? The first time they encountered Jesus, they had fished all night and they caught what? How many knows before you met Jesus, you caught nothing? So the same setting, the same sea. And verse 4, at dawn, Jesus was standing on the beach, but the disciples could not see who he was. Have you ever got so far away that you forgot who he even is? And he called out, fellas, have you caught, that's King James, not version. It's NLT version. Fellas, have you caught any fish? No, they replied. And he said, throw out your nets on the right-hand side of the boat and you'll get some. And they did, and they couldn't haul in the net because there were so many fish in it. And the disciple that Jesus loved, that's John, because John wrote the book. The disciple Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. And when Peter heard it was the Lord, he put on his tunic, for he is stripped for work, jumped into the water and headed to the shore. And that wasn't an easy feat. After seeing the terrain we saw. Verse 8, the others stayed in the boat to pull the loaded net to the shore, for there was only 100 yards from the shore. When they got there, hallelujah, they found breakfast already cooked. Fish cooking over a what? Don't you know Jesus could have cooked without a charcoal fire? What is the purpose of the charcoal fire? To remind Peter of where he denied him the third time. Remember where it says in the Bible that Peter got upset with Jesus after he asked him the third time? That's what we're about to go into. He was not upset as much as about what he was asking as where he was. Because that charcoal fire reminded him he cursed his Jesus and denied that he even knew him. But how many times have we denied by our lifestyle and our actions that we do not know him? Let's move on. And some bread. Verse 10, bring some of the fish you've caught. And so Simon Peter went aboard. He went back and helped. Dragged the nets to the shore. There was 153. Everybody shout 153. Large fish. Shout large fish. I'm not talking about that when you held up to the camera at the right angle to make it bigger than you thought. When he says large fish, they were large fish. Yet the net had not torn. Church, do you remember the first time the nets tore? But Jesus is symbolically saying to Peter, hey, you've been torn apart before, but this time you're going to make it. Can I tell somebody in this building, this time you're going to make it. You're going to become that rock in your family that you need to be. And there was how many fish? Come on, everybody help me. How many fish? I learned this again, and I even studied it again Friday afternoon. In the Hebrew, the number 150, are you ready to shout? The number 153 is a numerical total for the Hebrew words, Adonai Elohim, which means I am God. That's the only story in the book of the Bible where they give you the number of almost any animal or any fish. But God was telling Peter, because Peter knew Hebrew. He said, Peter, I was God when I met you the first time, and you have messed up over and over. But Peter, I am still your God. And I'm here to tell some people watching this morning, I don't care how much you messed up, he's still your God. How many is glad he's still our God? No doubt Peter's faith was restored. I'm sure his mind went back to the mountain where Moses said, who shall I say sent me? And he said the same words, I am that I am. I am your God. Let's finish the story. Verse 12. Now Jesus said, come eat some breakfast. Lesson learned. None of the disciples dared to ask him anything. About time they shut up. Who are you? They knew it was, they didn't ask him, who are you? They knew it was Jesus. Verse 13, then Jesus served them the bread and fish. This was the third time. There's symbolic there, but we won't go there. Jesus had appeared to the disciples since he'd been raised from the dead. There's a lot of threes between Peter and Jesus. A lot of threes. John 21:15, when they had eaten breakfast, he took time to eat with them. I wish we would take time to eat with him every morning. I thought he said he is the bread of life. Pastor, I'm so weak because you're not eating the bread of life every day. If you're weak, you choose to be weak. That ain't too hard. That's just truth. Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, notice it. Remember that rock? They're sitting there talking. Jesus says to Simon, do you love me more than these? Do you what? But that word is a word agape. I put it in there for you. That's a God kind of love. He was saying, Peter, do you love me the way I have loved you? And Peter says, Jesus, I love you as a friend. I love you, phileo, which means as a friend. The word Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Philo, I love you as a friend. And Jesus said, well, if you love me that much, go ahead, feed my lambs. He said to him again a second time, Son, Simon, son of John, do you what? Do you love me the way I have loved you? And notice he said, yes, Lord, you know that I, what? I love you as a brother. And he said to him, feed my sheep. Then he said to him, the Simon, son of John, do you? He changed the word for love. Because when we can't measure up to his love, he comes to where we are. Come on, somebody help me. Come on. There's many times with tears about to come out of my eyes right now. I did not love him the way he loved me. Come on, help me somebody. I failed him when he did not fail me. He served me when I did not even serve him. Come on, we all have some Peter in us. Oh yes, we love you, but we don't love you the way you love us. I'm glad that Peter was bold enough not just to fake it until he made it. He was saying, Jesus, I'm not at that level of love, but I'm trying to get there. Right now, I love you as a friend. And Jesus was saying, I want you to love me the way I love you. But notice that even when he came to Peter's level, he said, still feed my sheep or feed my lambs. In other words, he's saying, Peter, I know you have messed up so many times, but I am not through with you. I'm talking to someone. You've got a calling on your life. I don't know if you're in the building or watching, but listen, God has not gave up on you. When Peter was not at his love level, Jesus met him where he was. Then Jesus prophesies this truth about Peter in verse 18. He said, I tell you the truth. There's coming a day you won't be able to dress yourself and go where you want to go. But when you're old, you'll stretch out your hands and others will dress you and take you where you don't want to go. Jesus said this to let him know what kind of death he would glorify God. He was telling Peter, you're going to be crucified for me like I was crucified for you. Come on, even though Peter wasn't able to love him and confess, I love you, Jesus, like you love me. Jesus said, there's coming a day where you will demonstrate that you love me the way I love you. Because you will give your life for me. I want some of us to start giving our lives for him every day and not just on Sunday. When you wake up, it should be good morning, Jesus. Not, oh God, it's another day. No, it's a good day. This is a day the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it. Then Jesus said, follow me, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. I wish the story would have ended right there. Peter's looking good right now. Finally, Peter is looking cool. But in verse 20, right after this conversation on that rock, on the Sea of Galilee, Peter turned around and saw John, the one he's fussed with about who's the greatest. Come on, talk to me. You ever turn around and saw someone in church and you said, oh, I can't even worship no more? Come on, talk to me. Jesus turned around and saw behind them the disciple Jesus loved, because John's writing the book. And the one who had leaned over to Jesus during supper asked, Lord, who will betray? You know, the sing we sing of the Lord's Supper is so messed up. Some of you have to get rid of it. Jesus was at the head of the table, leaning with John on one side, and Judas was on his other side. That's how much he loved Jesus, even to the end. Washed his feet and made him the guest of the supper. When's the last time you sat in the presence of your enemies? I will make you a table in the... Maybe we shouldn't ignore our enemies. Maybe we should help our enemies. Well, let's move on. Jesus turned around and saw behind him. I'm almost through. I'm doing an hour sermon in 30 minutes. Saw behind him the disciples Jesus loved, the one who leaned over to Jesus. That means he was close during supper and asked, Lord, who will betray you? And Peter asked Jesus, what about him? You know Peter's problem? He can't get over being Peter. You know our problem? We can't get over being us. And do we know why? I'm about to tell you why. Because we don't love God the way God loves us. I'm telling you, every failure Peter had, every angry word Peter ever said, every stupidity act Peter ever done was one root problem: his lack of love for the Father. He said, what about him, Lord? I'm thinking, if I'm sitting there with Jesus, I'm not going to ask him about somebody else. Then he said, follow me. Verse 22, Jesus replied, watch this. Jesus he knew that John wasn't going to live forever, but he put it in a parable form. Peter, if I want John to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? Let me help you out. He was saying that's none of your business. I wish you'd look at somebody and say some things just ain't your business. Some of you felt too good doing that right then. He said, what is that to you? And here it is, and I'm closing, believe it or not. Don't ask me to do it next week. He said, as for you, Peter, as for you, Bill Bryan, come on, pick your name. As for you, don't worry about those around you when it comes to my relationship with you. What I'm doing to them ain't for you, it's for them. If I give them more grace than I give you, they may need more grace than you need. Come on, somebody. As for you, Peter, follow me. Y'all come. What was Jesus saying? He said, Peter, I want you to become like me. That word in the Greek means this: imitate. Everybody say imitate. He said, Peter, imitate me. Dim the lights, Amber, if you will. Watch this. He said, Peter, you got to love John the way I love John, because John is a thorn in your side. If John wasn't a thorn in his side, why did he say, what about John? Why did he say, why about one of the other disciples? There was a rift between John and Peter. Come on, it's easy to see if you read the Bible. Come on, that tells me I can be human and still have rifts with someone else, but I got to make it right. Follow me, imitate me. Love John the way I love you. Love your Judas the way I love you. Love the lepers the way I love you. Love the demon-possessed the way I love you. Love your enemies the way I love you. Love the Gentiles the way I love you. Love the Jews the way I love you. He's saying, Peter, be patient with others the way I've been patient with you. Imitate what I've done in your life. Imitate me in the way you love. Because Peter, the reason I came to this earth was to start a love revolution, not a division. He was telling Peter, you love them and I'll change you. Come on, you missed it. You missed it because your flesh don't want to hear it. Because your prayer is change them, and God said, you change, I'll change them. Oh, I just believe God can change them, but you don't believe he can change you. Watch this. You love them, Peter, and I'll change them. You love them, Peter, and I'll judge them. You love them, Peter, and I'll correct them. You love them, Peter, and I'll reward them. You just imitate the way I love others, and you love God. You love people, and you share hope, and just let me be God. Peter, you put up with them the way I put up with your crazy stuff. Peter, I gave you time to mature and grow up. You give them time to mature and grow up. Bridge family, I submit we need a love revolution in our own lives. If you can't love a Democratic, you don't love Jesus. If you don't love a Republican, you don't, I didn't mean to go there. There ain't two parties in heaven. There's only one family in heaven. Come on, there's some that have lost their way, but we're going to love them till they find their way. Not the way to a political system, but the way into the kingdom of heaven. I don't want to be part of a political system. I want to preach the kingdom of God, and the kingdom is for everyone. But the problem is, go home today, read Luke 22:32 and John 17. It talks about he prayed for Peter, but he also prays for us. Jesus does. He's praying for us now. But I don't want to close there. I want to close right where I'm at. Church, you got to learn to soak in his love. You've got to learn to bathe yourself in his love. Correction is love. Discipline is love. He's not a mean father, he's a good father. I want him to correct me. When he's correcting me, I know he's still loving me. I'm saying, Jesus, I love you like a brother, but he's saying, you ain't there yet, but I'm still feed my sheep. Imitate me until you become like me. But he's a God. God even said, I am a God of love. We need a love revolution. Would you stand to your feet? And you can't have a love revolution until you learn to daily soak up his love. Well, anybody besides me, don't raise your hand, but if it's you, just say, help me. How many of us all need to love a little bit better? Oh God, I need to love people a little bit better. I need to love my Judases a little bit better. I need to love the Peters and the Johns a little bit better. And I can't love until I receive your love, agape love. So Lord, I ask you this morning just to wrap me in your arms. Oh, Jesus, wrap me in your arms this morning. Can we close out that series just loving on Jesus right now?